Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. So the other day I was perusing through the internet looking for the latest articles on personal finance, as I tend to do, and I stumbled across this one titled "The Most Important Retirement Table You Will Ever See." Well, first of all, my reaction was the most important, because I'm kind of skeptical by nature. So I'm like, what is this that's the most important? But being that I love all things personal finance, especially surrounding the subject of retirement, seriously, I started reading about retirement when I was 16 or 17 years old. Obviously, I was one of the cool kids. No, I was a total nerd, and everyone knew it, and high school was rough. But all of this is a long-winded way of saying, of course I clicked on that article. I had to see what the most important retirement table was. So here it is. Drum roll, please. Okay, so it turns out it's a compound interest table, showing what would happen if you started saving $1,000 per month at various ages. Starting at 25, it could potentially grow to over $5 million. Wait 10 years, that delay cost you $3.3 million. Wait another 10 years, there goes another $1.3 million. According to the author, this is the most important retirement table you'll likely ever see. Not because of the specific figures. Those will vary based on how much you invest and what your returns are, because it illustrates just how important a role time plays in growing your wealth. First of all, if you're going to call this the most important retirement table you'll ever see, maybe pizzazz it up a little bit. Toss in a color or two, maybe a cool graphic. Don't make it look so analog. But the table does demonstrate the importance of compounding. And I feel like compounding is one of the most, if not the most important things about investing. And I feel like every investor has that aha moment where they truly just get it, where they get that taking just a small amount of money, putting it in the market and leaving it there for decades, the more decades the better, that's when they get excited about investing. Everyone understands this table, whether they invest or not. Everyone knows they should be investing as early as possible, yet a lot of people delay their start to investing. They just haven't had their aha moment yet. To them, it's just $5 spent today or $30 spent today, perhaps every day. It's just a small amount. They don't see that if you took that amount and instead invested it, put it to work in the market, it could turn into 6 or 7 figures. I know I often mention how much I love Warren Buffett, and I'm going to find a way to talk about him as much as I possibly can on this channel. When I was 21, the year was 2008, and I read the book The Snowball, all about Warren Buffett and his life. And in it, he talked about how he thought about money. So if $1 was spent today, he would think about what that dollar could grow to if instead of being spent, it was invested. And he guessed that $1 today could grow to $10. So I started thinking about money like that. And this was a time in my life where I was nose to the grindstone, saving as much as I possibly could. So if I went out to dinner, it wasn't just $20, it was $200 future dollars. And was I really willing to spend $200 on tacos? I mean, I love tacos, but $200, it's a lot of money. And honestly, I took it too far. I added a zero to everything. Gas, instead of being $30, in my mind, it was $300. Coffee, instead of being $5, it was $50. So this means I literally started to spend nothing. If something was $100, just forget it. I might as well have a heart attack right there, because in my mind, that was $1,000. So clearly I was on the opposite end of the spectrum, because you want to be saving, but you don't want to be saving everything. But outside of Mr. Buffett causing 21-year-old me to save as much as I possibly could and have a few panic attacks along the way, he is literally the living model of the effects of compound interest. Buffett started investing at the age of 11. He is currently 91 years old. That is 80 years of compounding. And because of compounding's magic, that is why over 99% of his $100 billion net worth was made after his 50th birthday. So everyone knows that compounding is great and that we should be investing as early as possible. But honestly, people are actually getting better at investing at younger ages. Before we go any further, I want to ask the question of the video: what age did you start investing? Put your answer in the comments down below. Now let's look at, on average, when people started investing by generation. Gen Z, with the oldest member currently 25 years old, on average started investing at 19. Millennials, those aged 26 to 41, typically started investing around the age of 25. Gen X, those aged 42 to 57, on average started investing around the age of 30. And of course, baby boomers, those aged 58 to 76, most started investing around the age of 35. More and more people are saving at younger and younger ages is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, Gen Z, their starting age for investing right now is 19 years old. That's great. How can you beat that? I mean, of course, the youngest member of Gen Z is currently 10 years old, so we don't have a full picture of this generation, but they're off to a great start. The fact that people are willing to get started at the age of 18 or 19 when they're first earning an income and put some money into work and get it invested, that is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, what could beat that? Well, potentially if you had a summer job while you're in high school, maybe you could open a Roth and put a little money aside, but I'm not gonna get on anyone's case if they're not funding a Roth while in high school. But if you have an income, just know that it's an option if you want to. And while I love to see that this average age of getting started investing is coming down, there's a couple factors at play. First and foremost, the subject of personal finance and investing is becoming more and more ubiquitous. It wasn't that long ago that the University of YouTube didn't exist. Many schools didn't, and most still don't, have a curriculum that revolves around personal finance. Many parents weren't taught about money, and so they didn't teach their kids, and perhaps it's a subject they themselves are not really all that comfortable with, and poor financial habits, they can be easily passed on. And while I do think it's becoming more and more common to talk about personal finance and investing and incomes and debts and net worths and things like that, with that being said, it is still a very polarizing subject. I think more and more people are becoming comfortable with talking about it, and times are changing, but not everyone is comfortable talking about it. And whether we like it or not, there still is a stigma when talking about money. A lot of people believe that it should be kept a secret and kept hush-hush. And largely, I think this is because there's so many emotions and so much value tied to money, at least here in our Western world. Someone having a higher net worth does not make them a better person. Someone having debt does not make them a bad person. At the end of the day, it's just a number. That's it. Money does create opportunities, but it doesn't speak to anyone's value as a person. It's also really important to consider that the idea of saving for retirement is actually a fairly new concept. The life expectancy in the year 1900 was 46 for men and 48 for women. People at that time weren't having to stock away money for their future years when they eventually stepped away from the workforce. They didn't step away from the workforce. They worked until they died. And I know the year 1900 can sound like a really long time ago, but when we look at it in terms of generations, it's not that long. My grandparents were born in the 1910s and the 1920s. So for many of us, it's our grandparents or our great-grandparents. Saving for your future, investing, creating financial freedom, this wasn't a thing that many of our grandparents or great-grandparents had to do. But within the span of just a few generations, life expectancy almost doubled, and the idea of retirement became more commonplace. The first Social Security check was issued in 1940. The IRA was invented in 1974. The 401k was invented in 1978, and the TSP 1986. And the Roth IRA, the baby of the group, was only created in 1997. To put some perspective here, the oldest baby boomer was born in 1946. Gen X, 1965. Millennials, 1981. Meaning many of these accounts were either just created or actually just established during the lifetime of many of these workers. So people need a little time to adapt. Also, prior to these types of accounts, many workers, in fact at its peak, 65% of workers, had defined benefit plans, aka pensions. But as the cost for these plans grew because people started living longer, companies started to push the burden of saving for retirement onto the employee, and thus we had the rise of defined contribution plans like the 401k. So until the 70s, saving for your own retirement wasn't really even a thing. That's only 50 years ago. And if we say that the average baby boomer started saving for retirement around the age of 35, well, the oldest baby boomer turned 35 in 1981. At that point, the 401k had only been around for a couple years. In many instances, starting earlier wasn't possible. And for the longest time, investing wasn't for the masses. I was lucky. I was exposed to investing at a very young age because it was something my grandma did. The very first few times I bought stocks, I had to go get a newspaper, pick out the stock I wanted, find its price, then with my ink-stained little fingers, go to our kitchen phone, which hung on a wall, had 7 feet of cord attached to it, and call a broker and ask him to place the order. And of course, this broker charged a commission on top of that. Only later did I learn that I was being charged a premium on the stocks that I bought because I was only buying a few shares at a time. And back then, you would only get the best price when you bought shares in a round lot, which was 100 shares at a time. I couldn't afford that when I was in my teenage years. All of this is to say that investing was hard back in the day. Back only 10 or 20 years ago, investing was much more difficult. It wasn't as easily accessible as it is today. Nowadays, with the internet, with apps, with no commission trades, with fractional shares, investing is wildly accessible. It wasn't before. It was another world. You had to pay just to get in. Now everything is free. It's easy to understand, it's easy to do. Half the time to make a purchase, all you have to do is swipe your finger. That was not the case 20 years ago. So it's no wonder that more and more people are starting to invest at younger and younger ages. I actually wanted to get to a point in this video where I started talking about what to do if you needed to catch up investing because you started a little late, but already this video is going long enough, so that will be a future video. But all of this is to say that my message is still the same. Invest early, invest often, stay invested no matter what's happening in the market. And oh yeah, don't shame the generations before you if they didn't start investing when you did, because retirement and investing are actually fairly new concepts. Remember to leave it in a comment down below when you started investing. I'm actually really curious about this one. Join the conversation. I read every single comment and I reply to as many as I possibly can. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. I hope you have a good one. I'll see you soon. Bye. The effects of the changing his mindset. It's a lot of money. I retire early. $50. 20-year-olds were. Long time ago. There is a fly. Oh my God. Perhaps it's subject. Can you stop? As one YouTube comment put it, only an ugly woman is willing to talk about money. Thank you. Welcome to the channel. About money. I had to go grab a newspaper and about money, and so they didn't teach didn't exist. If something is one of the most You done? So, eating my hair, sure, at least. Here doesn't speak to anyone's value as a person. It's that compound, and at what age? They don't see that